Welcome into another edition of Let's Bet It. I'm Alex Glaze. That's Mark Zinno. Zinno, I'm just going to cut to the chase because before we even start, I'm looking at the chat. We already got friend of the show, Peter, in here. Jarrett, been waiting for a Glaze day again. They're out for blood. They remember. They know. They remember the Trae Young 2.5 threes the other night. And just another terrible outing for Trae Young. I can't remember the last time I seen him string together a couple of bad games like this on this big of a stage.
Well, I don't think it's so much Trae having bad games. Let's give the credit where the credit is due. The Miami defense.
I think it's a combination of
no.
both.
I mean, I'm willing to put more emphasis on the Miami Heat and their defense and what they've been able to do in this series. I think they deserve all the credit. Look, they are clearly better than the Hawks. I don't think there's any denying that. And you're starting to see and validate a little bit about why they got the number one seed in the East. It wasn't because everybody else said, hey, we're not really going to play. We don't care about the regular season. They got the number one seed because they are a deep team. They're a great three-point shooting team. Their defense is off the charts, and they are extremely well coached. I mean, there are tons of reasons why the Miami Heat have gone up 2-0 in this series. Now, it will be interesting tonight. And I said this on my radio show here in Atlanta that basically, like, the Hawks have to show me something. I think the Hawks' best case scenario is getting gentlemen swept. I mean, honestly, I don't think they're going to take more than one game in this series because Miami is just too good. That said, big stars, big teams, big people come out on must-win nights. And tonight is a must-win night for the Hawks because they go down 0-3. It's over. They're not winning the series. And from that standpoint, I need to see Trae Young and company get back to what they're supposed to be. And that doesn't mean just Trae Young has to go off for like 40 on his own. We need to see John Collins get involved, Gallinari, Bogdanovic.
The back home, the role players should be more involved.
Right.
We'll talk more about that game later on in the segment, but I just wanted to start with that because I saw the first chat bringing up, those Trae Young 2.5 threes from the other night. I know. I almost hopped in the next day, but I couldn't get myself out of bed to face the music.
Why is it that people are always coming after you when your player props fail?
You know what's funny? There must be something about me that just connects with people because it's friends, people that kind of know me, people that don't know me at all. No matter what it is, they just want to chirp me. Is it because I don't know what it is. There's something about me.
You are a subtle trash talker, and
it's not so subtle.
Well, that's the point. Like you do it very like monotone and reserved. You just kind of like throw the little jabs in, and so when in reality, in the back of your mind, you're screaming at
exactly
what you're really doing to people. So they want to give it back to you a little bit.
And I listen. It's all fair game. But if you're asking me if I'm going to take Trae Young 2.5 threes tonight, no. I'm not doing it.
Listen, if you don't make 2.5 3 over tonight, they ain't winning that game.
They're in deep trouble. We'll get into that. No, we're going to talk about that later.
Okay.
We're going to talk about that later in the show. We got a lot. We're going to talk some MLB, obviously. Then we're going to talk some NHL ice picks. You got to pick on the ice tonight. I'm staying away. I'm all NBA tonight. And then we're going to get into the NBA. We're going to bring on JVT again to talk some NBA, and then finish things off with our plays of the day. So without further ado, let's bet it. And let's start with Bettor Up, Major League Baseball. And you know what we got to talk about before we get into tonight's games. The no-run first inning, yes-run first inning breakdown. Yes-run first inning went 4-6 yesterday. And the Rangers are now your MLB leaders in the yes-run first innings, hitting at 75%. But you're looking at a no-run first inning tonight. Little surprising, actually. Well, Kyle Wright's on the mound for the Braves. I don't want to give away your pick. Kyle Wright. I don't know what to make of Kyle Wright, but I'll let you do your thing.
Well, again, there is a reason why this wasn't my play of the day, because the numbers say that it could have been and it should have been. But, again, Atlanta and Miami tonight, okay? As far as first inning runs per game scored, Atlanta is 23rd at 0.29. Miami is 26th at 0.18 runs scored in the first inning. When you look at first inning scored percentage, Miami is tied for 27th with just 9% of their games scoring a run in the first inning. Atlanta comes in at 20th, about 21%, so 1 out of every 5 games. Both of these teams had a day off yesterday. And so the Braves come in a little bit refreshed, but the starters were really where I'm with you, Blaze. Like the starters were really for me what was the part of the conjecture as to why I sort of, held off making this my play of the day. I think you're getting a really solid number here as far as the juice that you're paying, but nonetheless, I think this is a great no-run first inning tonight.
All right, we have a question in the chat here about the Pirates tonight. Cubs-Pirates kind of screams no-run first inning. Tell me I'm wrong. Cubs, third in the league right now in runs scored in the first inning. I'm trying to look for Pittsburgh right now.
Pittsburgh doesn't score a ton of runs at all.
Basically, we're asking if who are the starters tonight for this game. So we're doing some live handicapping here.
Live handicapping.
Which the last time we did it. Let me see who is pitching tonight for the Pirates Cubs. That's interesting. So
you're on pause here, bro.
I know. Am I?
No, I'm just saying, like you're completely on pause as far as getting this information.
Yeah, I know. I didn't. Well, it's a question in the chat. I don't.
Okay,
I don't
well,
have
listen, we love our chat. We love our chat questions.
All right,
well, about it.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, look, off the top of my head, the Cubs have scored a lot of runs this year. Okay, without kind of looking at any numbers,
they're in the league in runs scored in the first.
Right.
Time, so.
And Pittsburgh does not score a lot of runs. So when you get to that situation, the way I handicap, I look at the starters, right? Like I look at the percentages. It's kind of like the same thing I do at first period overs in hockey, Glaze. I'll look at the teams and see how much they are get to the first period over. Then I'll look at the goaltenders. If I find a situation where both of them aren't consistent first period over teams, Pittsburgh is not a first inning run scored team. So you got to tell me who's starting for Chicago for me to get a feeling as to whether or not I believe that starter could give up a run in the first inning. And then you got to dive into splits.
Drew Smiley starting for the Cubs.
Oh, well, listen, he's never been prone to not giving up first inning runs. But again, I'd go look at what his record is against the top 3 or 4 guys, like what his numbers are against the top 3 or 4 guys in the lineup. Are they lefties? Are they righties? How is he versus lefties versus righties? How is he home versus away? You got to start to dive into these numbers a little bit deeper.
Question in the chat. Thank you, Peter. Smiling some other dude. Thank you.
Well,
that some other dude for the Pirates is Jose.
Listen, you could say some other dude about 26 guys on the Pirates. That's their entire roster.
Yes, you definitely can. Is that your only baseball play for the day, or you're looking?
No, I do have one more play, and this is another one I really wanted to contemplate making my play of the day. The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim are welcoming the Baltimore Orioles into town. And this, I'm going to take the A's in the first 5 innings, -0.5, at a very low juice at -112. Bruce Zimmerman is starting for the Orioles. Now, he's made 2 starts this year. He's gone a total of 9 innings, given up to 7 hits, no runs, and 10 Ks. That's great, right? However, both those starts were at home at Camden Yards. Last year, Bruce Zimmerman, when he went on the road, was a completely different pitcher than he was at home. His ERA at home last year, a very respectable 3.89. His ERA on the road, nearly double at 6.37. Batting average against at home, 258. Batting average against on the road, 328. This is a very good Los Angeles lineup here that can score runs and score runs easily. This is a fade against Bruce Zimmerman, going on the road for his first start this year against a powerful lineup. All I have to do is pay -112 and get a half run through 5 innings. I don't even think Bruce Zimmerman makes it to the 5th inning in this game against Los Angeles. I think he gets knocked out by then. And I looked for a K-prop on him because I wanted to take his under, and I didn't find it. But nonetheless, I'm going to be on the Angels today in the first 5. Don't even want to worry about the bullpens later on in the game and things that could mess up. And also, by the way, this would also be another this is a Yurfie. From the standpoint of the Angels are very good at scoring runs early. Baltimore is not. That's the problem, though. It's very one-sided, right? And I'm really only counting on one team to do all the work. So I stayed away from it from that standpoint. But I think the Angels get on top early against Zimmerman, hold on for the first 5.
I'm going to just black out everything you just say because one thing I will not stand for on
is Orioles slander?
No, I don't like Orioles slander. Wait, listen, when you have 2 guys on the Angels roster that are making more than the entire Orioles payroll combined, no, you can talk trash about the Orioles. I'm not going to stand for any trash talk about any of the Towson Tiger greats. Towson great Bruce Zimmerman.
Sorry.
For 1 year before he transferred. But listen, we're gonna claim Bruce, because he made it to the big, so got to claim.
There you go, smart move.
Yeah, that's how this works. But I mean, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Let's move on to the ice where you have a play. Listen, I'm this is all you right now until we get to the NBA. So give me an ice pick because the NHL is also kind of weird right now. It's a weird time. Some teams are still trying, some teams aren't. Some teams are playing for position. Other teams are pretty much just trying to, get their legs under them and get ready for the postseason. So kind of tough, like those last couple of games in the NBA.
Yeah, and again, like you said, very important that it is in a weird spot. And again, I'm going to two teams in the Eastern Conference where everything is locked up right now as far as who's in the playoffs and who's out. Now, there are still some seeding positions to be decided, but Columbus and Ottawa, two of the highest first period over teams in the league. You're paying a little bit of a steep price at minus 152. Like I said, I've always said minus 160 is my limit on first period overs. So I'm right at the threshold there. But Columbus, third highest first period over team in the league. And you look at Ottawa, 42 times. Again, they play 82 games. So they are above 500 as far as getting to a first period over. That's enough for me here to back this at a first period over at minus 152.
Love it, love it, love it. All right, let's talk some NBA as we wait for Jonathan Von Tobel to join us here. I mean, we got to talk about the Grizz, right? We got to talk about the Grizz. Oh, wait, do we want to? Oh, well, Jonathan Von Tobel is here. So let's bring him on here as we get ready to talk some NBA now. And, let's talk about this game, guys, because last night, epic.
Series saving. Series saving.
Yes, series saving, but an epic collapse from the Timberwolves. So I just want to start here with you guys. Karl Anthony Towns should never give a pep talk again in a huddle, right? Like that's done.
Well, either that or don't mic him up, right? The footage on the side, like, we're in Minnesota now. Well, it didn't really work.
Did you see Josh's tweet too?
Yes.
Quote tweeted it after the game. I mean, just perfect.
That's why these teams are. Yeah, that's why the series is fun, right? I mean, it's two young, kind of braggadocious teams who really believe in themselves, and sometimes when you do that, it blows up in your face, like Karl Anthony Towns. And more often than not, it seems the Grizzlies can deliver. But you're right. I kind of find it weird because Karl Anthony Towns has these games where he looks incredible, like game one, where he's exploiting mismatches and he's attacking off the bounce and he's wildly aggressive. And then you get a game like
dumb fouls. He gets in foul trouble.
Yep, and you're absolutely right. Him and Jaren Jackson mirror each other in that like you'll do these dumb fouls where you're you didn't need to do that, man. And you also don't need to commit the dumb foul and then look at the ref like what's he calling, like when it's a clear and obvious issue. But I am befuddled by Towns because he looks great one day and then he looks passive, makes dumb fouls, and you don't know what you're getting from him on another day like yesterday. He should be shooting the ball more than what did he have yesterday? 4 shot attempts, I think, yesterday overall.
Yeah,
he's got to be better than
8 points. I think I saw a stat that he has 7 made baskets and 10 fouls in the last 2 games combined. I think that was the stat. That can't happen if you're going to be. He's a former number 1 pick, supposed to be a franchise player. That can't happen.
No, it can't. Especially remember during the regular season, he was calling himself the greatest shooting big man. Like you can't be doing all of these things and then performing like that, especially when your team needs you. Yesterday the Timberwolves really showed some of the good defensive things about them. Throughout the regular season, they were a top team in terms of deflections. They were a top team in terms of forcing turnovers, and they were doing all of that yesterday. And still, even in blowing a 21-point lead, their defensive rating was 107, somewhere in that range, 107.2. Like that's still a really good defensive rating. But their offense was nowhere to be found. It bogged down when they were blowing that 21-point lead, and arguably their best player was nowhere to be found offensively as well. And I think that's what you really focus on here was the fact that their offense had nothing yesterday.
Absolutely. Zeno, I'm going to ask you.
Patrick Beverley was fun to watch. I guess that counts for something.
Well, Patrick Beverley's he's always fun to watch.
I actually thought it was smart, Mark, because at the beginning of the game, Patrick Beverley's not the best offensive player, but clearly the game plan was, look, Jaw's not a good defender. Let's just go after him. And it really worked for them early on. So they kind of went away from that, and you just like you said, you got to get more from your other guys. Patrick Beverley can't be your most aggressive offensive player.
The other side of that coin is when Patrick Beverley's playing well, then you have things like him taking contested threes when Anthony Edwards is standing there and feeling himself a little too much. So you got to find a middle ground there.
Yeah,
JVT, I want to ask you, and I promise you, I'm definitely not the guy who's going to rib you for getting something wrong, but I tailed you on Toronto against Philadelphia. You talked about that series, how you thought Toronto had a good chance to win it. What has happened to the Raptors, or did we just underestimate what Philly really can do when they turn it up to another level?
Well, I think So I think what's happened is I've been surprised by their inability to defend. I mean, I think to me, that's the biggest thing, going into that last game. I think it was an offensive rating of 135.9 for the Philadelphia 76ers. And they were incredible in transition. They were getting up and down the floor like Philly never did that in the regular season. That's what's kind of taken me by surprise. I figured, game 3 and what happened in that game, that was the series I expected this entire time. It just a series in which the Raptors were going to slow it down, not allow them to get really quick, because Tyrese Maxey's incredible in transition. They got a lot of guys who can score in that area of the floor, but they're also one of the best transition defenses, right? So you keep it slow, you keep it under 100 points for both teams, you give yourself a chance because you're not a great offensive team. It's essentially what they did throughout the entire regular season against Philly. But, sometimes, and I was talking about this yesterday, which was like, sometimes I like all the numbers and the stats in the world. Sometimes really good players just kind of show up to play. And Joel Embiid has done a really good job. Through the first 2 games, he shot under 50% from the floor, but just the gravity he commands, the ability to attack the offensive glass, attacking switches and getting multiple times like a little guy like Fred VanVleet on him and taking advantage of that. I think, the injuries didn't help Toronto, but I think it didn't help that Joel Embiid came into this with a clear mindset, unlike the guy we were just talking about, Karl Anthony Towns, to make a real and complete difference in this series, and he's been absolutely incredible.
Fred VanVleet is 6'1". I don't know if I like you calling him a little guy. I don't know.
I mean, in basketball, but you're right. It's funny. I tell my wife all the time. I'm like, you realize, like, because I'm 6 foot. Like, I'm like, I would be like just minuscule compared to all those guys.
You would look
like my dad's 6'5". I'm like, he'd be the little, like, he's like 6'4" on a good day. I'm like, my dad would be the smallest guy on the court. Yeah.
Let's switch gears and talk about tonight's game, guys. Because we were talking, Zeno and I were talking a little bit about this Heat Hawks matchup before you got on, JVT. The Hawks' problems, obviously Trey struggling, 10 turnovers in game 2. Are the Hawks' problems strictly limited to Trey, or is this a Hawks issue? I'm going to answer this myself. I'm going to say it's a Hawks issue because you have things like Nate McMillan giving them a night off in Miami as a way to clear their head, and then they get pummeled in game 2. But anyway, is it a Trey Young issue, or is it a Hawks issue?
I think it's a Hawks issue. You can point to multiple things in the problems that they're having. Let's start with Trey Young. Trey Young, first game, didn't shoot very well overall from the floor. In game 2, he has a better day overall, but his shooting in terms of from beyond the arc was really poor. You go back and look at it, 7 of his 10 3-point attempts were 29 feet or longer. Like, you don't need to be taking 3-point attempts, like at least that many 3-point attempts from that distance. You can work to find better shots, and I didn't really like the shot selection from him. Defensively, the Hawks down the stretch in crunch time were awful. It's 104-101, and Jimmy Butler catches the ball on the right wing, and he just goes right through their defense, no resistance whatsoever, gets a layup. Part of, I think, was it 7 consecutive points he scored to end up closing that game out for him.
You're describing the Hawks. That's who they are. Like the Trey Young 29-footers. Like that's what they do when they go in. No one's saying anything. That's what they do. They don't defend. Clint Capella's out, so they don't have a rim protect. It's just this is the Hawks.
Yep. No, and that's why I think you can't really point at one thing. Look at center, for example, right? They're missing Clint Capella. Game 1, they start Onyeka Okongwu. Game 2, they go small and they start Danilo Gallinari. They get outscored by 11 points in Danilo Gallinari's minutes, and he goes 0 for from the floor. So, there's a lot of things I think you can point at for Atlanta, the things that have gone wrong. But at the end of the day, too, you're sitting there at game 2 with less than 3 minutes left to go, and you're only down by 3 with at least a potential cover there, and they still screw that up with their exection down the stretch. Yeah. So I think you can point at a lot of people on that team.
Want to give you guys a prop here. Let's get a red hot chili prop ring because we're talking about this game. Okay. No, I'm the captain. This is my show today. Kyle Lowry. 13.5 points. I'm going to throw this out to Zeno first. You like the over or the under for Mr. Lowry today? It was 12.5 last night, 13.5 now. Under.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have to be. Look, the scary part about what is happening with Miami, and we're not talking enough about them, but like Bam Adebayo hasn't even had to get involved in this series yet. Like he could have literally sat the first 2 games out, and the result would have been the same. So he's going to get going offensively eventually at some point. They don't need – look, Lowry needs to make like 3 big shots a game, and that's what he's there for. He's a veteran presence, knows how to make a 3 when it's on the line, can create a shot when he needed. But other than that, he's not a key part of what they're going to do. If Bam Adebayo gets going, those points from Lowry go into his back pocket. So I think finally we'll see Bam look like Bam, and he'll be in the 15, 17 range like we normally expect him to be, and Lowry will be the guy who loses those points.
JVT, you agree?
I think so, mainly, and also because the number is somewhat high for him in terms of his, like, if you compare his points per game average and all those things. I would
It's
have a
averaging
tough
13 in the season.
Yeah, so like you're asking him to go over that in terms of this game, and through the first two games, he hasn't been as aggressive. But I will say this, as we talk about these teams adjusting and changing up what they do offensively, game 2 was clearly the Jimmy Butler game, and I don't think he's going to go 4 or 7 from 3-point range again. But if the offense stagnates, like, what do you do? How do you change up what you're doing in the half court? Because at times it's not look great against Atlanta. And I think one of the things you probably look toward is Kyle Lowry attacking Trae Young more on defense. We haven't seen that a whole bunch from them. And maybe that's a different wrinkle they throw in here today or in their next game, because maybe you want to get a little bit more efficiency in that end of the floor. And I think you can do that because there's a very clear weak link on that end of the floor when he's out there, and that's Trae Young.
Absolutely. That's why I'm leaning toward the over.
Yeah.
And you kind of pointed this out. He hasn't gone over this number in this series yet, but finished the regular season going over that number in 4 straight games in 8 of the Heat's last 10 games. So he can do it.
Oh, he's capable.
But he just and he also, like, in games 1 and 2, it's not like he's not being aggressive. He just hasn't been shooting well. 4 for 8 in game 1 and 2 for 8 in game 2. So I think that if the shots start to fall a little bit and he starts to be more aggressive and attack Trae, because obviously things will tell you that the Hawks back at home, they're Trae going to try to get back going. So how do you got to get Trae off the floor, right? Get him in foul trouble, attack Trae, and we've seen point guards throughout the season be able to do that. So I like Lowry to go over 13.5 points tonight.
JVT, more surprising split losing a game at home, Milwaukee or Phoenix?
Well, I think it's Milwaukee, mainly because and both have an injury to point to, right? Devin Booker goes down in game 2. Chris Middleton goes down in game 2. But if you look at Milwaukee, what bothered me so much about losing that game to Chicago was not so much that you lost it, it's the way that you lost it. We used to criticize, before he won a title, Mike Budenholzer for the inability to adjust. And you saw a little bit of that creep up in game 2. When you're consistently running drop coverage over and over and over again, and the Bulls are running almost the exact same play where it's just a high pick and roll for Vucevic and DeRozan, and they're either going to allow DeRozan to dribble in that soft area of the floor and pull up for a mid-range jumper, or he's going to kick it out to Vucevic, get guys to rotate and move from there and find some open shooters on the corner. They took advantage of that in a really big way, and they were even dropping Giannis. Like, the whole point of playing Giannis at the 5 when they put those lineups out there was that you could switch almost everything. And yet even then they're dropping him back in coverage, and DeMar DeRozan is still hitting those mid-range jumpers. And then finally, in the last 5 minutes or so of the fourth quarter, well, then they start to actually come up on those ball screens. They start to get the ball out of the hands of DeMar DeRozan. They start to get a little bit more aggressive, and that's when they really started to carve their way back into this deficit that they face. So for me, that it was more shocking that happened. One, because I have Milwaukee power rated so highly, but also is the way that it happened. For Phoenix, it is pretty interesting that they're having a lot of trouble with this Larry Nance, Trey Murphy front court, and how small they're getting New Orleans is, and the trouble that the Phoenix Suns are having with it because it's getting up and down the floor. They're moving the ball around. They're killing them in transition. And it's bothersome because this year they actually finished fine in transition defense. But if you guys remember the year they went to the NBA Finals, they were dead last in transition defense, the Phoenix Suns, where it was a really big problem for them. It's why the Bucks had so much success against them. And you really saw that creep up in the first 2 games against New Orleans. And I wonder if that's something that carries forward here against that small ball lineup they've had trouble with.
All right, well, let's talk about that game. We've got another red hot chili proper in that game. DeAndre Ayton, over under 10.5 rebounds. JVT, I'll start with you for this one.
So he had 9 in each of the first 2 games. But I'm gonna lean a little here toward the over, because I think the Pelicans are pretty comfortable with the matchups that they found here, which is Larry Nance Jr. at the center and playing a 6'8" power forward and going a little bit smaller. The opportunity should be there for him to grab some rebounds. You got to keep New Orleans off the offensive glass, which they're really good at even when they go small. But arguably being the biggest guy on the court for like big stretches of this game, you should be able to grab a good amount of rebounds. So I'm going to go over with that.
Valanciunas has been killing him. Didn't he? Didn't he have 25 the other night?
25? Yeah,
I've never heard of a 25 rebound game. I mean, it's incredible. Zeno, you on the over under?
I'm going to go to. I'm with JVT. I'll lean on the over here, just because again, I think that this series is going to be higher scoring than many people thought. You look at that game 2, more shots are going to be taken. There's going to be more opportunities to grab rebounds. But I expect both these games to continue to go over as New Orleans really can push the pace. Ever since CJ McCollum has gotten there, their offense really has just played a heck of a lot better. They're faster. They get up and down quicker, as JVT said. So I'll lean on the over here. But again, you're hoping that after back-to-back 9 rebound games that there's one little long arm, little pop that ends up in his hands as opposed to going to a team rebound stat.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, well, I don't like going on opposite sides of you guys for both of these, but I'm on the under. It's either really good for you guys or really bad for me, or really good for me and really bad for you guys. But
we know where your loyalties lie. You want to be right and you want us to be wrong.
Well, no, I mean, I just looked at it, and Ayton has no games this season against the Pelicans with 10 or more rebounds. It was just like that simple. Like, just he hasn't done it. And Valanciunas, I'm just looking at the way he's just been dominating the glass, and I just have no reason to believe that tonight's going to be the night for Ayton. Somebody's got to step up for him scoring wise, but I don't know about rebounds if that's going to translate there. But JVT, before we move on to another game here, with this Booker injury, who is a guy that you're looking to step up? Because one of my guys who I can never seem to find a prop on is Cam Johnson.
Yep.
I love Cam Johnson. McCall Bridges, another guy that I like to bet on as well, but his points props today, usually around 15.5. But who do you like to step up?
No, we're in agreement there. If you're looking at somebody, it's Cam Johnson. You know, he was in the closing lineup for them in that fourth quarter in game 2. He's going to be the more trusted guy in these situations. Now the Booker's not going to be available, and he's also just freaking good. Like, that's the other thing.
He can shoot.
He can shoot. He can score from multiple areas. He's got a little bit of attack in him in terms of the ability to, go off of the bounce and get within 4 feet of the basket. And they're going to use him. Like the attempts are going to be there. The opportunity is going to be there because he was part of their closing lineup in that fourth quarter, along with Bridges and Ayton and Chris Paul. So I think you're going straight to Cam Johnson and thinking that that's going to be the guy that makes up for this. Absolutely.
All right, one last red hot chili proper here. We're going to the Pelicans. We're going to Brandon Ingram. Over under 5.5 assists. Zeno, your thoughts?
I'm going to stay with the over just simply based off of what New Orleans offense is going to do. They should be back up in the 115, 120 range again. Look, it's the only way they're going to win, right? Like, New Orleans is not going to win an under game against Phoenix. Their defense is too good. New Orleans can only win an over game. And so the more points they can score, the more times they can get the ball in the bucket, the better chance they have to win. I think it's the only way they do it. So I would lean over on the scoring and the assist props. You just kind of have to find, and hope you got the right combination of what they are. But I go over on Ingram assists.
Yeah, I would tend to go over as well, and mainly just because of the style they've been playing, right? The ball moves around really well with them, and they'll look for him in crunch time situations to get a tough bucket. He's done a brilliant job with that. But, I mean, you look at some of his assist numbers lately, especially since they've gone to this shift in this lineup. He had 9 in game 2. He had 8 in the last game of the regular season against Sacramento, 7 against the Los Angeles Lakers near the end of the regular season too. When they've gone to these smaller lineups and the ball's just popping around and moving, he tends to move the ball around with it. So he's thought of as a scorer, which he really is. But since they've shifted their philosophy here down the second stretch, his assist numbers have been really high. So I'm going to go over with that.
I am staying away from this. I got burned by Jordan Poole over 3.5 assists last night. So
okay.
I'm taking a break. I'm taking a break from the assist props because, so I just need to step away. So it's a no play for me. But I like what you guys are saying about the over, but I can't bring myself to take another assists over because it was actually my first time betting an assist prop this year. And you know how you are when you put out bets, you're watching for your bet. There's nothing more painful than watching a guy that you bet on for assists because you pass and you're like, all right, shoot. Like, I don't care just shoot. Mm-hmm. And it just, didn't. It was not a way that I would suggest watching a game. Before we get out of here, JVT, any plays for the night? What you got?
I'm going to go back to the well here with this Milwaukee-Chicago game. And so I didn't bet Milwaukee in game 2 for the game, but I did bet them in the second half against Chicago, and that ultimately ended up being a push. But you should be getting a better effort from Milwaukee defensively. You should be getting a better adjustment from Milwaukee when they're playing their drop coverage. I don't think they'll be seeing it as much here. When you have Giannis at the 5, you should probably be getting a little bit more aggressive on those ball screens than they have been. I think you're going to see an adjustment from them, and I think you're going to see a better effort defensively because throughout the regular season, they were great against Chicago. Offensive rating of 102 in the 4 games. Game 1, they completely shut them down. It was a season low for a Bucks opponent in terms of points. They have the ability to stop that. It's just whether or not you're going to get a little bit better here on that end of the floor, and I think they will. So I'm going to go with Milwaukee in the bounce back. You can lay 2 minus 115, 2.5s are out there. I'm going to see what the market does with this because I think it's going to start to come down a little bit, and I'll grab a cheap number on the Bucks, but that's where I'm going to be tonight.
Gotcha. Yeah. I'm with you. I wrote the same play up for the Pickswise website, Glaze. I backed Milwaukee with the points. You're getting a short number. And it is weird, JVT. I don't know how you saw all these big spreads, the 6.5 point spreads for the home teams. They all flipped to 1.5 to 2. Like, there was no variance in any of those spreads, which was head scratching to me. And I just I even wrote for the Pickswise website last night. Like it was Nuggets or pass for me. Like I just could not back a 90% public bet on the Warriors last night where everybody was. And I get it, they covered, but it just, whenever it's that heavily and all these numbers, that's the only thing that makes me fear it. One of these 2-point spreads is going to be on the wrong side. The favorite's going to be on the wrong side. Yeah, it wasn't for Philly, right? It wasn't for Golden State last night. I mean, Miami's doing it tonight. The Bucks are doing it on Saturday. So, I kind of worry that all those numbers sort of hit that same 1.5, 2.5 spread.
Yeah, I can understand that. And by the way, if you were back in Toronto in that game, you probably feel a little jaded considering the missed free throws at the end of regulation, the way they probably could have won that game before overtime happened. So maybe that was your 2-point underdog that was supposed to get it for you,
True, yes.
I mean, guys, the Nuggets are going to get swept, right? Like if they can't win with Jokic getting 37 and 18, like they can't win a game in this series, right? Like that's
I don't even see like the gentleman sweep, right? You can make the case for Philadelphia giving a gentleman sweep to Toronto, given how competitive Toronto was in game 2. But I would agree with that. I was actually on the Warriors yesterday, and like watching the way that they like even in the situations where they're down, and all of a sudden you blink and you can change a 6-point, 7-point deficit to a 2-point lead in the matter of 90 seconds because the Nuggets just have so much trouble on the defensive end of the floor. They've been one of the worst defensive teams since the end of the regular season, and that's just translating over. They just don't really have an answer for Golden State.
Yeah,
guys, the play that I'm on tonight, I'm looking at the total for this this Hawks Heat game, and I like the over 221.5.
So you're backing the Hawks to win?
No, I'm backing.
It's a correlating bet situation. If it goes under, Miami's winning. The Hawks aren't winning an under game.
Well, that's but the Heat could also win an over game. The Heat can win an over game.
Yes, the Heat can win an over game, but the Hawks can't win an under game.
I completely agree with you, but I'm also looking at it from this way. I think that when we were in Miami, we saw that the Hawks role players struggled, right? Like Trey struggled, but also, Kevin Huerter was probably their better role player. Well, no, Bogey was their best role player. But, I think you're going to see guys like Kevin Huerter play better. You're going to see Onyeka Okongwu play better. You're going to see John Collins probably play better because, they're just better at home. So I think that we're going to see this Hawks team be able to produce more offense. Defensively, they're still going to have the same issues because, Clint Capella is not going to magically be better. So they're still going to struggle to defend the paint here. And the Heat have just been really good in this spot. Covered 63% of the time this season the over has hit 63% of the time when they're on the road and 61% of the time when they're road favorites. So I'm liking the over tonight. 221 is also a little, I don't want to say low.
It's a little low for the Hawks. It is
a little low for a Hawks game. Yeah, yes. We watched enough Hawks games now. It's a little low.
Well, and it's the same thing. Milwaukee has seen a very depressed total at 222.5. That's like a gift. I mean, the problem is we haven't seen Milwaukee's offense really show up. Like they're averaging 119 points per game over the last dozen games of the regular season. That offense just hasn't shown up yet. I mean, I think you're getting a gift, JVT, at 222 because Milwaukee should get to 120 against Chicago's defense, which when the normal Chicago defense shows back up, they're going to get burned for 120 against somebody.
It's almost just like on principle. Like last night, what was the game last night? The Grizzlies. Warriors. No. The Grizzlies game that was 238 or 240 at one point during the day. It's just like, no, you got to go under just on principle, no matter what you think. And I'm looking at this Hawks game. I was like, 220 for a Hawks game? No, I can't do it. So I just have to go over on principle.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. And actually, I thought coming into this, it was going to be a little bit of a higher scoring affair. You saw some of the regular season games get a little higher scoring, Miami and Atlanta, and you have the ability of Trae Young to exploit mismatches. I don't think they were really going to stop the Miami Heat because they're so bad defensively. So it does make sense. I thought this was going to be a higher scoring series than it has been so far.
Yeah. Zeno, any plays that you're on that we haven't talked about?
Other than the Bucks and the over, that's those are the only two things. And again, I wrote them up for the Pickswise website. It just I'm with JVT. I think finally the real Bucks offense shows up after 3 games. If they don't, I think their series could be in trouble because the worst thing you could do is allow this Chicago team to hang around. Remember, this was the heaviest series favorite out of any of the first round series was Milwaukee over Chicago because of Giannis and the lopsidedness of this whole thing with how bad Chicago's defense is. They got to get it right and got to get it right fast. And they're better on the road this year against the number 23-18 against the spread as a road team this year. So for whatever reason, they've been better on the road than at home.
Interested to see who's going to step up though with Chris Middleton out tonight. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. All right, JBT, thank you so much for your time. As always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Always good to talk to you guys. Thank you.
Take care, JBT.
All right, Zeno, let's wrap it up. Give me the 3-star play on the website. That's not your play. Don't give me a play that you wrote up. Is there enough? There's got to be other 3-star plays on the site, right? Or wait, no, hold on. I got to look it up because of your technical thing. So hold on. Let me.
I could tell you my
hold on.
3-star play hit last night. My 3-star play last night hit me over in the Warriors Nuggets game. So that 3-star play hit.
Okay. Listen, you do a good job. Listen, we have actually a comment in the chat saying, love Zeno's 3-star and breakdowns. So listen,
Thank you.
Love you. Everyone gets credit in the chat except me. I just get the chirps, but that's fine. I will.
Because you're a chirper.
I will carry the burden. I will carry that.
You are a chirper. That's what you are.
I'm not a chirper.
You were tweeting before there was Twitter.
Well. Okay, so I'm on the site right now. We got a couple actually. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 3-star plays up on the site. Man, let me give an MLS play out. Why not? Oh no, that's for tomorrow. Sorry. Let's give out today. Cardinals to win. That is from Keith Schmelter. Likes the Cardinals to win. It's a 3-star play over on the Pickswise website where we currently have 6 3-star plays. So make sure you head over to the site and check them out, including one from our very own Mark Zeno. And is that the play that you're going to give us right now?
No.
So a bonus. Ooh. All right. So give me your play of the day then, Zeno. Give the people.
Well, technically, my 3-star play isn't until Saturday. It's in the Milwaukee Chicago game. So I will give you one that I have tonight. We'll go back to the diamond for one of my favorites, Glaze, a Nerfy, between the Arizona Diamondbacks and the New York Mets. Now, first inning runs per game scored. Arizona second to last in the league at 0.08. The Mets have averaged just 0.38 runs in the first inning. Also, first inning runs allowed per game. Arizona, again, a minuscule 0.08. The Mets, 0.31. The 2 starters for tonight, Zach Gallen for Arizona, David Peterson for the Mets. Both of them have gone just over 4 innings. Neither one of them has given up a run yet this year. 2 hits for Gallen, 3 hits for Peterson. They faced each other already last week and one more to boot. First inning score percentage, Arizona, second to worst in the league at 8.3%. A Nerfy, an under a half run in the first inning tonight out on the West Coast.
I like it. All right. Heat Hawks over 221.5 is my play of the day. The Hawks are at home. I'm expecting better games from the Hawks role players, and I'm expecting them to ramp up the scoring a little bit, and they're still going to have those defensive struggles with Clint Capella out still. The Hawks are going to look like the Hawks. They just need to score a lot of points to try to keep this thing close because they are not going to be able to do anything defensively to stop this Heat team that's just been able to do pretty much whatever they want throughout this series offensively. Clint Capella missing is obviously a big reason for that. But another thing I'm looking at here, the Heat games have gone over 63% of the time this season when they're on the road and 61% of the time when the Heat are road favorites. So everything is telling me over tonight. A little bit of a low total too. So 221.5. I like the over in the Heat Hawks game tonight. So let's roll with it. I'm looking at the chat. Lindor room. Yeah, okay. Lindor. Anyway, that'll do it for us today. Good luck with your bets tonight. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.